Hey everybody, it's Triple L. I hope you're having a great day. Today I'm coming in to talk some Fire Force. This time specifically, we're talking differences. That is, we are comparing episode 3 to chapters 5, 6, 7, 8, and a little bit of 9. This time around, there's some major omissions. At times, we're skipping full pages. Other times, full characters are being ignored. But look we're adapting over 4 chapters worth of content as opposed to the regular 3. So, that kind of makes sense. Quick notes before we get started. This episode animated a lot of fight scenes and they were done good. There's no real notes having to do with any of the fight scenes aside from the timing of which scene flows into the next. And also following from episode 2, episode 3 is still very much a somber affair with a lot of wide shots and a very good use of silence this time around. Anyway, that's it for the preamble. Let's just jump right into the main differences. This time we got, I think, around 20. So right off the bat, we're going into a major difference. This intro scene as a whole does not exist in the manga, but is rather an amalgamation of different scenes. Timeline wise, some of the details that appear in this segment come from later chapters. For instance, the Obi info comes from the end of chapter 9. So comparatively, the anime gives us information earlier than the manga did. Other things I can tell you is that a portion of dialogue is based on chapter 4 pages that weren't adapted, specifically the dialogue that revolved around the dust. So all in all, this scene gives us a lot of information that is relevant to the episode. It is a framing device for the episode. Some of it, such as the mention of Hajime, fills viewers in on some of the entities that will be mentioned later in the episode, while the guys talking about Obi fills us in on the man's character and trustworthiness. This extra segment also gives away character motivations, specifically when this guy says he wants the story of the world to continue. Already starting pretty strong. The next difference that I should note out is that, like last week, there are spots in this episode where we are missing Shinra's inner thoughts. And it's unfortunate that these details are missing because Shinra's thoughts are not easily visible from just looking at his face, especially because he has that nervous smile going on. This is just a thing that continues to happen. We'll have to just make do with it. Overall, they're just watching Shinra's thought process, so it's not as if we're losing big, important information. The next small omission occurs in front of 119. It's the missing names. Along with Mamoru-kun, you have Res-kun and Q-chan. Do you see the joke? Together, they are Res-Q. Okay, I think you got it. Extra bit, and this is just fun trivia. Mamoru means to protect, and the reason that they are 119 is because the emergency number in Japan is 119. And the dogs make the 1 sound and cats make the nya sound, right? So that's a nice little joke there. That was pretty cool. Next up, it seems we skipped the majority of a page. It occurs when we get the shot of our buddy over here. Originally, he was sitting with the CEO of Hajime and a priest from the church. Maki was the one that informed us of this. Really interesting that in an episode that talks about Hajime and the church more, that they omitted 2 of the key figures from those forces. The next change occurs with Tamaki. Did you think it was aggressive already, the degrees to which she is unlucky? In the manga, it was way worse. Check this page out. Before Shinra slid his hand into her pants, Tamaki fell on Arthur and got passed around other firefighters before ending up with Shinra. Poor girl. The next small change again occurs with Hajime, where we have dialogue saying that Hajime were the ones that prepared the facility, specifically the CEO. It gives you the impression that he was the one that designed it. You could possibly notice this if you zoomed in on the tanks with Hajime plastered on them. That could tell you that they were the ones that made it. Oh, also small thing, Obi hadn't arrived in the manga at this point in time in the anime yet. Next, we skipped another full page. This page featured characterization for unnamed fire soldiers, with the biggest chunk belonging to this guy. Interesting that they removed his, since he's a character that comes back later and is pivotal. We also missed Shinra's inner thoughts, but hey, what else is new? Next, we are moving into chapter 6 material. First thing I want to point out is that this room seems more cramped in the manga as opposed to this wide open space. The reason for this is obvious. Wide open spaces are easier to animate characters moving around in. This change was easy to make though, since for this fight, the manga didn't specify that the environment played a factor. And heck, even reading the manga, sometimes the author didn't draw in the background. Next small change occurs when Joker is stepping on the soldiers. This doesn't occur in the manga. Instead, you had Shinra wondering if this was still a game. Most likely, they had Joker stepping on the soldiers just to create a better segue into the fight. Okay, next up is where things get really crazy. Right after Joker tells Shinra to entertain him, we continue their fight scene in the anime. This isn't how it was paced in the manga. The manga instead had pages between the entertain line and the fight. Heck, I can even tell you a lot of the fights starting after the show is alive line, that's actually chapter 7 material. But before that, we have the chapter 6 materials that we have to cover. The first skipped page had Obi and the crew arriving and Maki giving them details on how Arthur got in. That is, he cut his way in with his little sword. In the anime, you don't really need this bit of information because they show you Arthur's strategy really well. And then Obi and the crew were already there in the anime, so there was no need for that little bit of info. The other skipped page though, now that's interesting. This guy had a page all to himself where you got to see his powers, and you also got a shot of the second company's commander along with the big guy's general character disposition. Again, the anime chose not to give Company 2 any time in this episode. The next skipped page in the sequence featured Juggernaut the big guy launching fire missiles at the establishment, which coincidentally also landed near Arthur. This segued into the Tamaki falling scene. So this was a situation where in the anime, the booming was implied to be from Joker and Shinra's fight as opposed to the big guy. You even had Tamaki commenting on the danger earlier than she initially did in the manga. Okay, so now we are firmly moving into chapter 7 material, and we start with another skip page of material, this time featuring some interaction between Tamaki and Arthur. This would have occurred when they were walking together. We missed a little bit where Arthur was trying to act like a knight and Tamaki reminded him she was a soldier. This was also the page we had Tamaki sniffing out danger. Anyway, this page led into Arthur doing the ladies before gentlemen routine instead of Tamaki just rushing ahead as per the anime. The next change doesn't come for a while since the fights are all animated pretty faithfully. So much so that we move into the chapter 8 material. The change is when they are escaping the explosion. We missed this moment where Tamaki grabs onto Shinra's junk. I mean, I thought it was funny. Anyway, we're out of fights now, so you can expect skipping to happen again. Right before Shinra escapes the explosion, we had this shot in the manga. A preview shot of two captains that hadn't been formally introduced. Really interesting that in an episode that introduces Hajime and mentions the army, the anime scrubbed the relevant characters. Anyway, the next change occurs when Arthur is falling. We just missed tiny little details. One, Burn tells Arthur he is not actually flying, and we have this shot of Obi with his arms wide open. So this is just funny. Obi was intending to catch Arthur until the others brought the tarp. For extra humor, we also had this panel with the Company 1 style versus Company 8 style. Overall, it was funny. That was just... It's still maintained kinda in the anime, but you know, funny. Anyway, after Maki dumps Arthur, we have another skipped page. Can you guys guess who was skipped? It was the big guy who got saved by his captain when stuff was falling. So not only did you miss out on the big guy, you missed out on watching what the second captain can do. That's unfortunate. The next strange thing is when Burn comes up to Shinra to thank him. This is more of an anime decision. The anime makes it seem as though the passage of time proceeded as opposed to the manga having everything happen one after the other. The anime even makes it seem like Shinra moved from the place he initially landed. Anyway, the anime just makes this seem very awkward because how could Obi just leave Shinra alone for enough time for it to be dusk? Shinra is also personnel directly involved in the incident. Like, he's the first person you want to go up to. It seems silly to put off the debris for hours. It should be noted though that the manga also has its share of awkwardness to a tiny degree because there's no shot of the people that Shinra rescued immediately after he puts them down. So who knows how much time actually passed in the manga. But if you ask me why this all happened, I think the anime just wanted to make the mood more atmospheric, more dramatic. That's really it. They just wanted things to look good in the background. Twilight and nighttime are way more visually interesting and dramatic than the regular daylight colors. That's just how it goes. That's what I think it is. This is just an artistic change, honestly. Next up is the boat scene. Now obviously, for the portion that was talked about while the boat was going across the screen, the manga had shots of people talking, but it gets a little bit more interesting than that. The boat scene was taken from one page of chapter 9 that gave us like a nice little reference shot for it. There was no boat in the manga note, No bullet in the manga. They just had to do that to make that visually interesting. But the majority of the conversation that Obi and Shinra had during this time frame did not take place here originally. In fact, this leads us to the next change. That conversation, the one revolving around the politics of the Fire Force, actually took place the next day. And the thing we lost out most on are exposition shots, such as the faces of the captains for the noted divisions. We also lost out on a bit of exposition that showed that the media didn't cover the explosion during the game, which only added to the idea that the Fire Forces keep information locked down. As for why they changed the time this occurred, again, nighttime looks better for serious conversations, I guess. Like, I don't know, but you look at the way that they handled it, and they were definitely using the time of day to their advantage. They were definitely trying to make this more atmospheric. Like, there is no need for that shot of stars unless you want to make something awe-inspiring. Again, this was an artistic change. It only loses a few details, but it keeps a different kind of tone. Anyway, that is it. Woo! What an episode. There was a lot of skipping, with the biggest victim in the episode being this big guy, and the winner of course being the fights, which were beautifully animated, and of course the tone of the show, which is maintained from episode 2. The direction of the adaptation definitely gives a different impression than the manga. I'm very interested to see how things are going to work out with the big guy who was skipped. I guess his powers become more of a surprise for later. Maybe he won't even be animated for or adapted for this season of the show. Maybe he shows up another time. Who knows? We'll have to see. But anyway, those were the big changes for episode 3. I hope you all enjoyed. Like always, if I missed something, let me know down below in the comments. And until next time, I hope you all have an absolutely great day.